touching story of a single dad janitor and the CEO, 30 minutes that changed everything, revealed. Jake woke up before dawn, the world outside still shrouded in darkness. His breath fogged the mirror as he got ready to face another long day. With a quick glance at his sleeping daughter Lily, he slipped on his worn uniform and headed out, fueled by the promise of her smile. Every day was a battle, and he fought tirelessly, determined to create a better life for her. As he walked into the high-tech corporate office, the lights flickered on like a scene from a movie, illuminating the polished surfaces and sleek furniture. Jake began his shift, sweeping and wiping, but his mind was filled with dreams of college applications, of Lily wearing a cap and gown, of opportunities he never had. As he emptied trash bins and mopped floors, he often felt invisible, yet he clung tightly to the hope that his hard work would lay the foundation for a brighter future. In the same building, Claire, the CEO, sat poised and powerful in her glass-walled office. To her, Jake was just a background figure, a part of the machinery that kept her empire running smoothly. But on this particular morning, destiny had something different in store. A sudden alarm blared through the office, and chaos erupted. A lockdown was in place. The employees, once so confident in their roles, now shuffled nervously like sheep without a shepherd. Jake's heart raced, but he quickly shifted into gear. He became the steady hand amid hysteria, ensuring frightened employees understood the safest way to exit the building. Claire watched in disbelief as this quiet janitor transformed into a guiding light, calming voices and directing them towards safety. "Over here!" he shouted. "Follow me." His presence steadied the panicked crowd, and for the first time, Claire saw the power behind the uniform. Before they could even catch their breath, Jake and Claire found themselves staring at each other a moment that felt electric. The walls of class and status dissolved. "What is happening?" she asked, voice trembling slightly. "A lockdown," he replied, resolve firm in his eyes. "But we'll get through this." As they worked together, Jake shared his dreams for Lily, the little girl who deserved more than just scraps of life. Claire listened, her own heart heavy with unspoken fears of isolation in her world of privilege. Before they could truly connect, the lockdown ended as abruptly as it began. Employees filtered to their desks, but the air between Jake and Claire crackled with unexplainable tension. Now, drifting apart, Jake turned back to Claire, a question caught in his throat. "What does it really mean to lead?" he asked, challenging her to see beyond the business facade. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The moment lingered like a heated breath, pulling them closer, yet the distance remained. Could Claire truly navigate her privilege to foster real connections? Would Jake's acknowledgement as more than a janitor ever arrive? Both felt the urgency of their realities pressing in a world suddenly vast with untold possibilities, but far from certain. As they separated, hearts thundered, leaving unanswered questions swirling as they returned to their separate lives, each marked by a moment that could change everything. The following day dawned, brighter yet heavy with unspoken possibilities. Jake shuffled into work again, heart still fluttering from yesterday's encounter. What had started as a lockdown had morphed into something more profound, a connection he never expected. As he pushed the mop across the lobby, the memories replayed in his mind, Claire's eyes wide with concern, her voice trembling. It felt surreal that a brief moment could shift the course of his day-to-day life. Meanwhile, in her glass-walled office, Claire sat staring blankly at her screen. The excitement of her usual projects felt trivial now. Her mind drifted back to Jake's question: what did it mean to lead? As a CEO, her world was built on decisions, strategies, and results. Yet yesterday's chaos unwrapped layers of something she never truly faced: vulnerability. A buzzing in her pocket snapped her back. It was an email about yet another merger proposal. But it felt hollow. The days stretched on, and Jake found himself continuously looking up at Claire's office, a small part of him hoping to catch a glimpse of her. The elevator dinged throughout the day, but the routine sounds felt different to him now. Each shift of the door was a reminder of yesterday, the electricity in the air, her hesitant words that felt like a mirror held up to their contrasting lives. Later that afternoon, a sudden commotion near the break room caught his attention. Claire stood surrounded by a handful of employees, her tone authoritative but her expression uncertain. She was addressing concerns about a company-wide policy change that would affect dozens of jobs. Jake heard snippets of conversations, fear echoing through the air. His heart raced again as he realized she, too, was feeling the burden of leadership. Gathering his courage, he stepped lightly towards the gathering. "Excuse me, Ms. Koch," he called out, surprising even himself with the clarity in his voice. She turned, surprise flickering across her face before her features softened. "Jake," she acknowledged, a hint of recognition sparking in her eyes. "I might have a few ideas on how to handle this." His words surprised the group, and Claire's gaze sharpened with interest as murmurs passed around. Maybe there's a chance to involve those affected in the discussion? Let them express their concerns, share ideas, they're a part of this company too. The tension lightened slightly. Claire's thoughtful nod fueled newfound confidence in him. "That's a valuable perspective," she encouraged, her eyes glimmering with appreciation. "We'll set up a meeting, and I want you there too." A smile cracked across Jake's face, warmth spreading in his chest. Their worlds had intertwined once more, but this time they pulled each other closer to a shared reality. As time elapsed, news began to ripple through the company of the surprising collaboration. Employees were intrigued, some skeptical. Yet, gradually, voices began to amplify in the conversations. It was barely a week since the lockdown, but Jake felt as if a shift, a transformation had begun. With every interaction, a deeper understanding took root, but the looming question remained. Were they ready to face not only their professional lives intertwined but the personal lives lurking just beneath the surface? Claire absorbed this new dynamic, wondering how it could impact her business and, more importantly, herself. Could she truly embrace the lessons Jake was offering? As the clock ticked forward, plans took shape for the meeting. Jake's pulse quickened with anticipation and hope. Would they find common ground? Would more emerge from their connection than either had expected? But just as possibilities loomed heavy, an unexpected email slid into Claire's inbox, its subject line chilling her to her core: "Internal review, immediate action required." The walls felt like they were closing in again. What did this message entail, and how would it affect every connection she'd been trying to build? Jake had taken a step forward, but could they withstand the storm brewing just out of sight? Claire's fingers trembled slightly as she opened the email, her breath hitching in her throat. The words were heavy, weighted down by the prospect of judgment looming over her leadership. Immediate action required. It wasn't just a simple internal review. It was a mandate to analyze recent decisions under the microscope. Jake noticed Claire's sudden shift in posture from across the lobby. Her shoulders, once relaxed, seemed to carry the weight of the world. He wanted to dash over, to ask if she was okay, but anxiety bubbled in his chest. He took a deep breath instead, forcing himself to be still as the phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a text from his best friend, Sam, asking about dinner plans that evening. Jake hesitated, glancing back at Claire. She was still glued to her screen, brows furrowed in concentration. There was something sacred about this moment, and he couldn't pull away from it. Steeling himself, he approached her office, tapping lightly on the glass door. The sound caught her attention. When their eyes met, he felt a strange pull, as if they were bound by something unspoken yet palpable. "Hey, do you need a hand?" he ventured, the words spilling out before he could regret them. The sound of his voice broke the tension surrounding them like a breath of fresh air. Claire hesitated, then nodded slightly, her vulnerability laid bare. I'm just overwhelmed with this review. It feels like I'm under a spotlight," she admitted, her voice faltering. "Maybe talking it out would help." Her expression softened, and she gestured for him to enter the office. As he stepped inside, Jake noted how the air changed. It was less about the corporate facade and more about two individuals grappling with the reality of their situations. I'm supposed to present my decisions and justify everything, Claire confessed, her eyes darting back to the screen before lifting to meet his. It feels daunting, and I'm scared of what they'll find. Jake shifted a little closer, his heart racing. What if they see what you're doing right? He countered. You're genuinely trying to create a space for everyone. You're allowing their voices to be heard. She offered him a small smile, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. But what if it's not enough? Then we'll figure it out together, he promised. With those words, he realized he'd crossed the threshold between them, standing shoulder to shoulder in vulnerability. They brainstormed for what felt like hours, trade ideas bouncing around as clarity surged. The more they talked, the more they uncovered the patterns behind their fears, the weight of expectations, the dread of failure. A shared vision began to emerge, a budding sense of partnership built on understanding and resilience. Just as they seemed to find common ground, Claire's computer pinged with another notification. She winced before checking it and paled even further. It's from the board, she whispered, as though that would somehow lessen the blow. They want to meet with me, now. Jake's heart sank as reality crashed back in. This wasn't some quaint brainstorming session anymore. It was a potential reckoning. Her hands trembled as she set her phone down. I don't even know what to say. Then don't say much, Jake urged, an unexpected wave of determination flooding through him. Just speak from the heart. They trust you for a reason. Claire searched his eyes for confidence, her own wavering under pressure. And what about you? She asked softly. I'll be here, he assured her, a slow smile brightening his features. Whatever happens. You're not alone in this. A silence settled around them, heavy yet reassuring. With grounding certainty, they both knew this was a pivotal moment. Before she could respond, Claire's phone buzzed again, disrupting the moment. The email preview caught her eye, and her expression hardened. Claire? Jake asked, concern creeping back to the surface. With a deep breath, she squared her shoulders. It doesn't matter right now, she decided. What matters is the meeting. But as she prepared to leave, doubt flickered in Jake's mind. Would the meeting shatter everything they'd started to build? Just remember, he said as she moved to leave, I believe in you. Whatever happens in there, it doesn't change what we just built. As she paused, something flickered in her gaze, a glimmer of appreciation. Thanks, Jake. I really mean it. And I promise, when this is over, I'll find you. With that, she stepped out, her presence dissolving into the hallway. Jake stood alone in the office, the weight of what was to come settling heavily in the air. The clock ticked painfully slow, and a soft rumble of voices echoed outside. In those fleeting moments, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of something monumental. But the question loomed large: would they both come out unscathed? Jake shifted on his feet, the silence of the office amplifying the chaos brewing in his mind. His fingers drummed anxiously against the desk, the harsh ticking of the clock a steady reminder of the time slipping away. Somewhere out there, Claire was preparing to face the board, and he couldn't shake the desire to be by her side. He paced for a moment, glancing out the glass door, desperate for any sign of her. What if everything fell apart? What if they pulled her into their corporate game like a puppet on a string? His heart raced at the thought, so he squeezed his eyes shut for a second, trying to will away the fear. Just then, the door swung open, and Jake's heart leapt. But it wasn't Claire. It was Melissa, the HR director, clutching a file and looking determined. Jake. Have you seen Claire? His pulse quickened again. She's in a meeting with the board. They called her in. Melissa's expression turned uneasy. That's not good. It means they have serious concerns. An icy knot formed in Jake's stomach. What do you mean? They want to discuss her leadership approach. If they're pushing for a change, it could affect her position, Melissa replied, her voice edged with worry. Jake opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. The looming dread enveloped him. But I thought she was doing the right thing. She was bringing everyone together. Right or not, "They're looking for any signs of weakness," she said grimly, her eyes softening as she looked at him. "She is tough, but yeah, but what?" he pressed, feeling frustration bubble beneath the surface. "She needs someone like you in there," Melissa said. Not as a shield, but as her voice to remind her why she is fighting. "Maybe I can convince them to let you in." Jake felt a rush of determination. "I need to be there. If she is in trouble, I can help." Melissa hesitated, her brow furrowed with concern. "They might not take it well." "No, they'll see it. They'll see that she stands for something." His words felt bold, more confident than he'd felt since this whole mess started. Seconds stretched like hours before Melissa nodded slowly. "Okay. Let us see if we can get you in there." The two of them rushed down the hallway, anxiety crackling between them like static electricity. Jake's mind raced with memories of the conversations he'd had with Claire, her hopes, her dreams for the company, for the team. He couldn't let them overshadow her fight. As they reached the large conference room door, a low murmur of voices seeped out. Jake's heart sank again. He took a deep breath, silently willing strength to Claire as Melissa knocked. "Come in," a voice called from inside, and the door opened slowly to reveal a stern-faced panel, chairs arranged like a battleground. Jake stepped in after Melissa, scanning the faces belonging to the board members. Some appeared uncomfortable, others disinterested. And there she was, Claire, sitting at the table, a small island in a sea of judgment, her eyes scanning the room with fierce resolve. "Claire," Melissa began, "this is Jake." She looked up, surprise flashing across her face. "Jake?" He could see the relief wash over her. In that moment, he felt a surge of purpose. "I'm here for you. Whatever happens, just know that." The board members exchanged glances, eyebrows raising, whispers passing between them. But Claire's gaze stayed steady on Jake, her lips forming a grateful smile. "Let us begin," one of the board members said, and the atmosphere shifted as everyone leaned back, ready to dissect Claire's every decision. As they launched into questions and critiques, Jake felt the pressure in the room rise. One board member questioned a recent initiative Claire had spearheaded. What was the reasoning behind investing in employee wellness programs when productivity seemed to dip? Claire opened her mouth, but before she could respond, Jake felt a pull inside him. He suddenly stepped forward, feeling the intensity of the moment. "Actually, that wellness initiative has shown measurable benefits in employee morale. When people feel cared for, they give more. It's not just about numbers, it's about people." The board exchanged surprised looks, and Jake knew he'd set off a ripple. Claire's eyes widened at him, and in that one glance, he felt an unspoken connection sparking between them, stronger than anything they'd shared before. The tension shifted, and the room seemed to lean in, curiosity piqued. But would it be enough to turn the tides in her favor? As the dialogue continued, each word felt like a lifeline, but doubt lingered at the corners of Jake's mind. If Claire's leadership was called into question, would they both be left standing together on the other side, or would this moment tear everything apart? With that thought haunting him, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that whatever unfolded next could change everything, not just for Claire, but for them both. Jake felt the weight of the room pressing down on him. Faces were turning, eyebrows cocked, and he could see the board members processing what he had just said. Claire looked at him with a mix of gratitude and fear. A silent understanding passed between them. He yearned to take away her worries, to shield her from this harsh corporate reality, but he had a role to play now. She needed him. "Do you truly believe that, Jake?" a board member queried, skepticism lacing the question. Jake straightened, forcing his shoulders back. "Absolutely. Healthy employees are engaged employees. Investing in them pays off in the long run." His voice was steadier than he felt, a lifeline not just for Claire, but for every person who believed in the vision she'd shared with him. This was a pivotal moment. Every pulse in the room seemed to quicken, and he could feel eyes narrowing not just at him, but at Claire, absorbing every word she might say next. She was fighting against the tide of doubt, and he was standing right beside her. No, he was right there in front of her, ready to catch her if she stumbled. Claire cleared her throat. We live in a world where companies thrive because of their people. Ignoring that leads to burnout, high turnover, and a toxic culture. Her voice was calm, yet there was a fire behind it. We need to foster a place where everyone can thrive, not just for profit but for the community we all belong to. Jake's heart swelled with admiration as he saw her transformation. She wasn't just fighting for her job anymore, she was championing a cause. It was about making workplaces better, and he felt every ounce of her passion swelling within him. Is there data to support these claims? Another board member chimed in, clearly looking for a crack in her armor. Absolutely, Claire replied, her confidence building with every response. I can provide numerous studies, testimonials from employees who have seen significant changes in their well-being and consequently, their work output because of these programs. The board members exchanged glances, and Jake could see some of them nodding slightly. Hope flickered in the air, a glimmer of possibility that maybe they could win this fight. But then, their lead director spoke up again, cutting through the moment. Even if we acknowledge some success in your initiatives, how do we justify the financial risk and potential backlash from shareholders? Jake felt a twinge of panic again, but Claire held firm. We can invest in our employees and show measurable ROI. If we don't prioritize wellness, we risk losing the very foundation of our company, our people. The room fell silent at her words. Jake's heartbeat echoed in his ears, the tension palpable. They were threading through a minefield of corporate politics, each one trying to navigate the labyrinth. He took a bold step forward. Sometimes, it's not about the numbers on a page. It's about the hearts behind those numbers. Each employee has a story, struggles, dreams. Claire understands that. The board members looked taken aback, staring at him in a way that sent a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins. Maybe he shouldn't have spoken up, but it was too late to turn back now. Thank you, Jake, Claire said quietly but loud enough for everyone to hear. The warmth in her voice ignited something deep inside him. Then, the lead director shuffled his papers, leaning back slightly. Let's take a moment to consider everything, he said, his tone measured, almost cautious. We will reconvene shortly. As silence enveloped the room, Claire and Jake shared a look, one that spoke volumes. Her expression was a whirlwind of gratitude and trepidation. They were standing on the edge of something monumental. But even amidst the flicking glances and murmurs of the board, Jake felt a quiet dread creep back in. There was still so much at stake. Would this be enough to save her position? Was fighting for her vision worth the risk of losing it all? Time passed slowly, each ticking second heavy with anticipation. Barely able to breathe, he knew one thing for sure: whatever the outcome, they would face it together. Suddenly, the door creaked open again, and the board members shuffled back in, their expressions unreadable. Jake's heart raced. Let us move forward, the lead director declared, looking straight at Claire. We need to discuss the proposals you presented. On the table is the future of your leadership. As he spoke, Jake realized the real test was beginning. Would the board embrace their mission or condemn it? With every fiber of his being, he wanted Claire to emerge victorious, but he couldn't help but wonder what price they'd pay in the end. Did they stand a chance against a board that might not be ready for change? The room was charged with a nervous energy as the board members returned. Jake's heart raced, each beat echoing the tension swirling in the air. He felt Claire's hand brush against his, a silent reassurance that they were in this together. A strange mix of hope and anxiety filled him. He wanted to believe in the mission they were fighting for every weary soul trapped in cubicles and conference calls. Let us begin, the lead director said, adjusting his glasses and sitting back with a steely resolve. We need to look at the potential outcomes of your proposals and their effects on our bottom line. Claire nodded, the steel in her spine holding firm as she stood before the board, armed with her data and passion. I want to present the case studies that underline our approach. This isn't just about spending money, it's about creating an environment where our employees feel valued and, in turn, return that value to the company. She clicked through her presentation, and the graphs flickered to life, showcasing reduced turnover rates and increased productivity metrics. Yet Jake couldn't shake the gnawing doubt in the back of his mind. Would numbers on a screen be enough for a board that appeared more concerned with dollars than with the people behind them? He watched the board members' expressions closely. Some looked skeptical, while others leaned in, intrigued. It was difficult to tell where they stood, and every glance weighed heavily. He could feel his body tense as the lead director leaned forward, pushing back his chair slightly. While these numbers are compelling, the director said slowly, they can also be interpreted in many ways. What guarantees do we have that investing in these wellness programs will yield consistent results? Especially given the unpredictability of market conditions? Claire's gaze sharpened, and Jake felt a surge of admiration roll through him. It amazed him how she could stay calm under pressure, how she was ready to face down every point raised. People are our greatest asset. If we enhance their well-being, they become more engaged and productive even during unpredictable times. This isn't just a soft approach, it's a smart business strategy. The board members' faces were a tapestry of contemplation. Would they see the truth in her words, or clutch their comfort in the status quo? Jake's stomach lurched. He had seen businesses fail when culture soured, when people felt like cogs in a machine. We're not dismissing your arguments, Claire, another member interjected, trying to soften the blow. But we need a solid return on investment that would not only motivate us to implement these programs, but also convince our investors. Then let us make this a partnership, Claire suggested. What if we start with a pilot program? We can track the results and provide you with the metrics you're looking for. Real-life data that shows the value of investing in our people. Her eyes glimmered with a hopeful fervor, and Jake could see the light that burned bright within her. It made his heart ache. This wasn't just her fight, it was theirs, for every employee who felt lost and unheard. But he could sense that the room was still hesitant. I appreciate the offer, the lead director replied carefully. However, partnerships bring risks, and we can't ignore the impact of failure. With his skin prickling with questions, Jake couldn't resist but to step forward again. But isn't the real risk doing nothing? If we don't try to change the way we operate, we risk losing the very people we count on to carry this company into the future. As their eyes locked, Claire's confidence seemed to bolster his words. Imagine a workplace where people are happy, where creativity thrives. Isn't that worth the risk? The gains greatly outweigh the uncertainties. Suddenly, something shifted in the room. There was a murmur of agreement from one of the younger board members, a hint of humanity that lingered beneath layers of corporate control. Jake held his breath, praying that this spark would catch flame. The lead director's demeanor softened, though. He masked it well. We will need time to digest these points. Let us take a short recess, but know this, we are more than just the numbers. As they filed out again, Jake felt cautious optimism surge in his chest. Could they really be making headway? Would they come to see what Claire saw? He turned to her, a tentative smile breaking through his worry. You were incredible in there. It's not over yet, but I think we made an impact. I hope so, Jake, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But what if it's not enough? He clasped her hand firmly, needing her to understand. Whatever happens, we will handle it together. We owe that much to everyone who needs us. As they awaited the board members' return, everything felt unsteady, like an arrow bent back on a bowstring, ready to fly. Would they land a hit, or would they miss entirely? They would know soon, but one question loomed larger than the rest. Would they be able to turn this moment into a making their dream come true moment, or would their hopes crash down silently? As the sound of footsteps echoed through the corridor, Jake's heart thudded heavily in his chest. The board's return felt like a countdown to something monumental. He squeezed Claire's hand tighter, both for comfort and for strength. She looked at him, searching for reassurance, but there was no holding back the uncertainty gripping them both. The board members re-entered with a different energy. The lead director's expression was now neutral, almost unreadable. Thank you for your patience, he began, his voice even. We have given considerable thought to your proposal. Jake felt his throat tighten. It was as if the air in the room had thickened, heavy with anticipation. He caught Claire glancing at the rest of the board, her eyes darting between the members who were so much more than just decision-makers. Each of them held the future of countless employees in their hands. "We understand the potential the pilot program offers," the lead director continued, "but we cannot ignore the financial implications. Our investors demand results." He paused, scanning the room before landing his gaze on Claire. "What commitments can you provide that would ensure their support?" As Claire opened her mouth to respond, Jake could see the tension building. "This isn't just a program for perks," she started. "It's about building a culture where people feel they matter. Happy employees drive innovation. That's the commitment, cultivating a workforce that's more than just a number on a spreadsheet." A murmur rippled through the board. Jake held his breath, senses heightened, trying to read the room. The younger board member who had been engaged before nodded, leaning forward. "What Claire is saying resonates. Employee satisfaction isn't just good for morale. Studies have shown it directly correlates with performance. We can communicate this to our investors." The lead director's brow furrowed. "It's a gamble, and can you guarantee that it will yield the desired outcome?" "Nothing is guaranteed," Claire said, voice steady but passionate. "But every day we choose to do nothing, we risk losing talent, we risk losing the heart of this company. Let us not forget that." The board sat in contemplative silence. Jake felt a tug of hope. This wasn't just Claire's battle. It was for all of them, for the families who depended on their jobs, for those who poured their lives into their work, yet felt neglected. After a moment, another board member spoke. "What if we put limits on the pilot? A defined budget, a set time frame? That way, we can assess and decide based on real data." Claire's face lit up, hope dancing in her eyes. "Absolutely. If we can demonstrate positive results in 6 months, we can expand it further. Let us show you how investing in our team pays off." As they talked, Jake felt the world around him blur. Clarity started to penetrate the haze of worry. They were building a case, brick by brick. This wasn't just a pitch anymore. It was a promise to their colleagues, to their community, and ultimately to themselves. But the lead director's face still bore the weight of caution. "And what about costs if this does not yield the results we're hoping for? We must consider the failure potential." Frustration flared within Jake. "And what's the cost of doing nothing? Our best people leaving for companies that invest in their well-being? Isn't that a greater risk?" The room quieted again. Claire's eyes sparkled. Was there unity growing in this tension? Then an unexpected voice came, one of the senior members with a reputation for being pragmatic. "I see the value of what you're proposing, Claire and Jake. Maybe we do need some fresh air in this room." Claire turned, her shock turning to excitement. "We're not asking for a leap, just a step forward. Invest in our people, and it will create a ripple effect. The benefits will reach further than just our bottom line." The director tapped his fingers on the table, thinking. "Let us take some time to discuss this further. We will reconvene in a week." As everyone stood up to leave, Jake felt both an ache of anxiety and a surge of possibility within him. They weren't finished yet. This wasn't the end. It was another chance to press forward. As they walked toward the door, Claire leaned closer to Jake. "What if they still say no? What if we can't change their minds?" He looked at her, resolved. "Then we keep fighting together. It's too important to give up now." As they slipped out of the boardroom, Jake felt the weight of what was to come. Would they see the light that Claire fought so hard for? Would they stand by their mission? But there was another uncertainty lingering, unvoiced but felt deep within. What if the real battle was not with the board, but within themselves? As they stepped into the hallway, the future seemed an open book, waiting for their story to unfold. The hallway was alive with the buzzing energy of people heading back to work, but for Jake and Claire, time felt suspended. Each step they took echoed in Jake's mind, a mix of excitement and apprehension swirling like shadows. He glanced at Claire, whose face was a battleground of hope and fear. "What do we do now?" Claire finally asked, the weight of the question hanging thick in the air for both of them. Jake squeezed her hand. "We prepare. We gather data, testimonials from employees, anything we can to support our case. This is just the beginning, Claire. We can't let their indecision pull us down. Her gaze softened as she smiled, the enthusiasm rekindling a spark in her eyes. Right. We need to rally the team. They've got to see how vital this is. I'll set up an employee meeting. We can brainstorm our angles together. Everyone deserves a voice in this. Jake nodded, the initial fear dulling as determination seeped in. The board's hesitance ignited a fire in him that he hadn't known he possessed. Let us do it. And maybe we can bring in stories from other companies who've successfully done this. Real stats, real change. Let us show them what is possible. As they stepped outside into the crisp air, their surroundings felt different. The sun's warmth kissed their faces, and the chatter of passing coworkers suddenly sounded encouraging rather than overwhelming. Claire leaned against the wall for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Hey Jake, what if I tell my story? She suggested, her voice a mixture of vulnerability and strength. What do you mean? Jake asked, intrigued. Claire took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. I mean, I didn't start at this level. I've been where some of our employees are now. I struggled, I fought to be heard, and I made it. Sharing my journey might inspire them. Jake could see the beauty in her idea. That's powerful, Claire. It might connect with people on an emotional level they didn't expect. This isn't just about numbers, it's personal. She smiled wider, and Jake felt a rush of hope. Let us share not just the struggles but also the victories. We can show how investing in people has real, tangible benefits. The more they talked, the more Jake envisioned a gathering of their colleagues sharing laughter, stories, and dreams for the company. It felt alive, charged with the promise of change. Later that night, as Jake lay in bed, the day replayed in his mind. The board's cautious responses weighed heavily, yet a strange emotion stirred inside him: determination. They weren't just battling bureaucracy. They were advocating for a cultural shift, a real difference in people's lives. Just before drifting off, a thought flickered: what if they saw the potential in not just the program but in Claire and himself as leaders? Could they turn this from an uphill struggle into a journey of transformation for everyone involved? Days passed quickly, with Claire and Jake working tirelessly to prepare their proposal. When the day of the all-hands meeting arrived, a sense of anticipation buzzed through Jake's veins. Employees were slowly filing in, some wearing expressions of curiosity, others appearing skeptical. Standing at the front of the room, Claire glanced at Jake, her eyes reflecting a mixture of nerves and hope. He felt grounded by her presence, knowing how much they had prepared together. In a soft voice, she began, "Thank you all for coming today. We're here to talk about something that matters deeply: our work culture, and how we can grow together." As she launched into her story, Jake watched her glow with authenticity. People were starting to lean in, their interest piqued. With every word, the room transformed. Employees were nodding, faces lighting up with recognition and empathy. If they could see their struggles reflected in Claire's journey, perhaps they could feel the unity they were striving for. But as Jake scanned the audience, he couldn't shake the growing nagging feeling in his gut. Was this enough? Would it resonate beyond this room? Suddenly, in the back of the room, he caught a glimpse of one of the board members, discomfort flashing across his face. Jake's heart quickened. What would it take to push through that wall of indifference? He realized this was more than just a presentation. It was the start of a movement. Together, they would need to pull at heartstrings and challenge the status quo, because in this battle, only a true alliance could withstand the test. The question loomed like unspoken thunder: were they ready to brave a new path, even if it meant facing unexpected fears? As Claire's voice soared, promising change, Jake felt the tension of insecurities fuse with hope. This was only the beginning. The meeting room buzzed with an energy that was palpable. As Claire spoke, Jake's heart raced with every nod, every smile from their coworkers. There was something miraculous in seeing faces soften, eyes widen with understanding, and the stirrings of belief sparkle in the air. However, one person remained unmoved. The board member in the back kept his arms crossed, jaw tight. Jake couldn't shake the weight of his gaze. As Claire wrapped up her narrative, she looked toward Jake, silently asking for his support. He cleared his throat, stepping forward. "We all have dreams and aspirations," he began, his voice steady yet charged with urgency. "Change doesn't happen in isolation. It requires each of us to unify, to seek understanding and collaboration across every level." The room shifted slightly. It felt as if they were all leaning in, anticipating where he would take them next. "Together, we can create an environment where every voice is valued. You know your stories better than anyone else," he continued. "This isn't just some corporate initiative. It's about you, it's about us. Can we share what we want to make of this place together, and can we dare to believe that we can make that happen?" A murmur ran through the crowd. Jake could feel the curiosity building as he offered a small smile, warming them to the idea of possibility. "Imagine this," he continued. "What if our company didn't just strive to succeed but thrived through the strength of its people? What if every one of you could see yourselves growing, evolving right here?" As his words flowed, he caught a glimpse of Claire's expression, her eyes twinkling in encouragement. The fear in her voice from earlier was melting away into something brighter. They were connected, not just by their mission but by the beliefs that fueled them. Yet that one board member still loomed in Jake's mind. Then, something shifted. A voice rang out from the crowd. "Jake, how can we be sure this isn't just another fleeting initiative?" It was Sarah, a well-respected team leader known for her fierce dedication. The others glanced around, murmurs of agreement spreading like wildfire. Jake felt the prick of tension, but he welcomed it. This was healthy. "A fair question, Sarah," he nodded. "We need to build accountability, real metrics that show our progress. But it starts with us asking the difficult questions and pushing for transparency. We're all in this together, right? What do we want to see as success?" The room began to bubble with energy again as ideas poured forth. Voices arose with excitement, proposing initiatives, sharing fears, and expressing hopes. Each contribution fortified their cause, carving out a clear path forward. Jake felt the release of tension. They were part of something alive. But as the back and forth continued, Jake noticed the board member still watching, skepticism etched into his face. That blank stare weighed heavier than ever. Was it possible that even in this moment of connection, that doubt could linger? "Let us take another step," Jake said, his voice rising above the noise. "How many of you would be willing to share your stories with us? Let us put it all on the table. How can we collectively ensure this matters?" The excitement dimmed for just a beat, replaced by uncertainty. Jake's heart raced. Would they be brave enough? He locked eyes with Claire. She squeezed his hand, urging him on. Suddenly Claire stood up again. "Let us show the board that we want to take ownership of our culture. We can't wait for someone else to lead us. We have the power to change our story." A ripple of agreement surged through the room, and Jake's pulse quickened. There was strength and spirit rising among them. But just then, the board member shifted in his seat, leaning forward slightly as if something had sparked his attention. Was it doubt or interest? Jake's breath caught. This was a pivotal moment, one that could shift everything. Would they seize the opportunity to show they were ready to hold their ground? What if this one moment of courage could transform not just their path, but the very foundation of their work culture? As the room buzzed with potential, Jake knew the real battle was just beginning. They had ignited a flame, but would it burn bright enough to break through the barriers? The days that followed were a whirlwind of energy and anticipation. Meetings buzzed with excitement, and the growing camaraderie among employees created a vibrant atmosphere that felt almost electric. Claire and Jake poured themselves into preparing a comprehensive plan that would not only showcase their vision, but also include real stories, real fears, and aspirations from their colleagues. It was becoming clear. This was more than a proposal. It was a movement. Claire took the lead, her voice steady and passionate as she shared her story and those of others. Jake watched as she flowed with confidence, inspiring them to believe in their collective power while addressing employee concerns. Each meeting solidified the bond between them, their shared purpose lighting a fire in Jake's heart that he hadn't felt in a long time. As the time approached for the board's final decision, anxiety clung to Jake. Didn't he want to lose this progress, this chance to make a meaningful change? What if they reject us? He voiced one evening, worry etched on his features. Claire smiled gently, the warmth of her gaze pulling him back. Whatever happens, we've made a difference already. We've opened conversations that needed to happen. Her optimism was a bomb, wrapping around them both. The shift had begun, and even if the tide didn't turn completely, something beautiful had already emerged. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. The boardroom felt claustrophobic as they filed in, their expressions unreadable. Jake's heart pounded. Claire stood tall at the head of the table, her eyes scanning the faces of board members who would determine their fate. Tension flickered in the air. The lead director cleared his throat. We've taken time to consider the proposals, and we've spoken to several of your colleagues. Transparency, engagement, and commitment resonate throughout. He paused, and a silence fell over the room. Claire's eyes sparkled with hope, but she remained guarded, holding Jake's hand for strength. The lead director continued, change is rarely easy. However, we recognize the momentum that has developed here. We see the potential in your vision. Jake felt adrenaline surge through him. Could they really be turning the corner? To that end, we're willing to vote for the pilot program, the lead director announced, punctuating his statement with a nod. With commitments on metrics, accountability, and results to safeguard against underperformance. In that moment, the room erupted a flurry of chatter mixed with surprise and excitement. Jake felt his knees almost buckle from relief. Claire shone, her radiant smile illuminating the dark corners of anxiety. Thank you, she breathed, voice trembling with emotion, and Jake could see the tears glisten in her eyes. It wasn't just a victory for them. It was a victory for everyone who believed in connection, empathy, and growth. As the board members congratulated them, Jake caught Claire's gaze. They shared a moment soaked in understanding. This was just the beginning. They would follow through with the program, observe metrics, gather feedback, and ensure this blossomed into a culture shift. Once outside the boardroom, the excitement spilled over. Employees gathered to celebrate together, the atmosphere buzzing with hope and newfound unity. Jake looked around, seeing expressions of relief, hope, and joy. Thank you for believing in this and in me, Claire said, her voice soft but powerful. We did this together. Tears of joy filled her eyes as she wrapped her arms around him. Jake smiled, feeling the warmth spread through his entire body. I didn't just support you. We showed everyone that our voices matter. They stood there surrounded by their colleagues, basking in the shimmer of triumph, the air heavy with unspoken gratitude and love. This moment, this shared journey, had forged a bond deeper than either had anticipated. As they looked towards the future, there was no doubt, change was hard but so necessary. And as Claire wrapped her fingers around Jake's, they understood together, they could continue to lift each other and everyone around them. They were not just creating a better company. They were building a community. This victory marked just the start of a new chapter in their lives, a chapter where dreams were nourished and lives transformed. With hearts full of hope, they stepped forward into the unknown, ready to embrace the power of collective strength. As that joy radiated around them, a thought echoed in Jake's mind. Life was less about the roles they played and more about the connections they fostered, and they would make it count. And together, they would not only change the workplace, they would change lives. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your love. Comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. We want to hear your thoughts. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support means the world to us.